Good day everyone, we are Group 4 and we're going to report about a glance at selected Philippine political caricature in Alfred McCoy's Philippine cartoons. Political caricature of the American era, 1900s to 1941. So first, who is Alfred McCoy? So Alfred McCoy is a Bachelor of Arts in European History from Columbia University in 1968, a Master of Arts in Asian Studies from the University of California, Berkeley in 1969, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Southeast Asian History from Yale University in 1977, and he was a lecturer and became a full-time professor of history at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So, Alfred McCoy's Philippine cartoons or political caricature of the American era. So, political cartoons and caricatures is a recent art forms that exaggerated human features and poking fun at its subject. It became a form of social and political commentary which targets person of power and authority. A caricature is a unique way of representing opinions that captures the audience's imaginations enough for historians to examine these political cartoons. So cartoons give a great impact and an effective tool of publicizing opinions through heavy use of symbolism.
The first picture symbolizes about political dynasty here in the Philippines. Three persons, and the first person in it is giving a crown to another person. This symbolizes to be the current head of the Philippines, the one who has the crown and influence in the Philippines, the one who holds the money, the influence and controls it. And seems like he's enjoying it to be able to pass it to his brother. This political dynasty thing is bad because a family gets to be in control of a country, and sometimes they could abuse it. As we could see in the picture, their clothes, two of them, is very good. It looks good. This symbolizes their wealth, or it could be the wealth of the country that they are using instead of using it to the country. As we can see, the other person who is stopping it wearing mm, in such a formal, but we could say is poor, just like an average Filipino could or depicted as.
The Independent, June 16, 1917. War Against the Speculators. The comic art is a commentary to the doing of Manila police that time, meaning that the comic art is a way of telling on how Fernando Amorsolo thinks about them. The comic art tells that the one that the Manila police should be catching are the large business owners. In short, he's telling that capitalism is the cause of poverty that leads people in doing crimes like stealing, and that the large business owners are the great thieves.
Good morning, classmate. My name is Raymar Tabangan. Hi. This third cartoon depicts a cinema. A blown-up officer was at the screen saying that couples are not allowed to make love in the theater. Two youngsters looked horrified while an older seemed amused. Automobile became a popular mode of transportation in the city, led to the emergencies of taxis. However, the laws and policy implementation in Medicare resulted in the increasing colorum and unregistered vehicles transporting people around the city. The rules governing the issuance of driver license was loose, and the traffic police could not to be bothered by rampant violation of traffic rules. That is the direct consequence of the classic urbanization of the Philippine society. Okay. Next. The next cartoon was published by Independent on 27 November 1915. Here we see the caricature of Uncle Sam riding and chariot pulled by Filipinos wearing school uniforms. The Filipino boys were carrying American objects like baseball bats, whiskey, and boxing gloves. McCoy, in this caption to the said cartoon, says that his cartoon was based on an event in 1907 when William Howard Taft was brought to the Manila Pier riding a chariot pulled by students of Liceo de Manila, such was condemned by the nationalists at the time. McCoy called it a sexual revolution that occurred in the 1930s. Young people as early as the period described the conservative Filipino mindset by engaging in during sexual activities in public space like cinemas. Here we can see how that period was the meeting point between the conservative past and the liberated future of the Philippines. Okay, thank you.
The picture tells us that cinema, making love with girlfriend or boyfriend, like having a public display of affection, like kissing, because for others, especially the oldies, this is immoral at unethical. Yun nga, sa picture na yun, dapat bawal talaga yung mga making love din sa cinema. Like, mga PDA, lalo na kasi pag nakita ng mga matatanda yan, lalo na sa mga kabataan, magiging iba yung tingin nila sa kanila. Ganon. Then, hindi porket madilim kailangan doon na gawin yung mga milagro, lalo na sa sinihan. Pwede naman gawin niya, pero dapat din sa tamang lugar. Hindi yung kung saan lang. Kailangan maging magrespeto sa sarili mo.
So next is the picture 5, where we could see a man riding a chariot. I think you are all familiar with the man who's riding the chariot, right? We could see him in the stores, shirt, even in the restaurants. His name is Uncle Sam. I don't know if you know that he is an American, but in this picture, he represents as American. And the people who pulled the chariot are Filipino students. As you can see, some of the students are holding objects, like baseball bat, whiskey, and boxing gloves. This picture is based on an event when William Howard Taft brought to Manila Pier riding a chariot pulled by students of Liceo de Manila. Back then, I know that Filipino doesn't have enough financial for themselves. That is why even students work for themselves. For me, as a Filipino seeing this picture, it is disrespectful. And we are being underestimated by the Americans in this picture. This picture shows that Americans has the power to rule over the Filipinos. As you can see, a American is riding a chariot that is pulled by the Filipino. I know that it is a job back then, but in reality, the horse should be the one who is pulling the man who is riding, right? So in this picture, it looks like the Filipinos is the horse pulling the Americans.
The last cartoon was published by Lipang Calabao on August 24, 1907. In the picture, we can see Uncle Sam rationing porridge to the politician and members of the Progresista Party, sometimes also known as Federalism Party, while members of the Nacionalista Party was on the lookout and waiting for their turn. This cartoon depicts the patronage of the US being coveted by politicians from either of the party. From what I can understand in the cartoon is that both parties are hungry for the help of the US. It seems like they really want to have a great connection with US. So they participate and are active to the activities that the US does. At the same time, they are very supportive to the US. For me, the two parties want to create a good relationship with the US so that they can have their help when needed and also added power to their respected parties.
Analysis of the political caricature during the American period. It demonstrates different strands of changes and shifts in culture, society, and politics. Filipino politicians did understand the essence of democracy and accompanying the democratic institution and process. The American introduced democracy and modernity like healthcare, modern transportation, and media. Patronage became influential and powerful. The selected cartoons illustrates not just opinion about the Philippine society during the American period, but also paint a broad image of society and politics under the United States transition to Catholic-centered Philippine and Spanish society to American assimilated one. Each cartoon served as a depiction of what is happening during the American period, the sexual revolution, mindset, and condition of the poor Filipinos in the Philippines. So, sa panahon ng mga Amerikano, ang nagbago at nagdag sa kultura ng mga Pilipino, malaki ang impluwensya ng mga dayuhan sa komunidad. Pinakilala ng mga ito ang modernidad tulad ng pangangalaga ng kalusugan, modernong transportasyon at media. Naging maimpluwensya at makapangyarihan at sa pag-iisip ng mga Pilipino ukol sa demokrasya. Nagkaroon ng bagong kaalaman sa kung paano kumikilos ang politikong Pilipino.